You could give a billionaire $8, or you could give a thousandaire $5. Who do you think will appreciate it more? Verify the habit at patreon.com/doseofbuckley. They say that a lot of trends are cyclical. We certainly see it in fashion all the time. In the 70s, high-waisted pants were like totally groovy, man. Then, by the 90s, waistlines had dropped well south of the navel. Low-rise became fucking rad, dude. We saw high-waist pants return in the 2010s, driving the rumors that Taylor Swift wore them to hide the fact that she had no belly button. Remember when conspiracies were fun like that? But recently, we've started seeing a trend toward low-rise again, which upset a bunch of people on the internet, because everything upsets people on the internet. And perhaps this gave us a hint as to what was going to become very trendy in this decade. Being a fucking prude. Okay, so in the 1950s and 60s, it was very rare to see two people in the same bed on TV. And when you did, it was almost always because of some exception. It was fine on the Munsters because they weren't human. One's a Frankenstein and the other's a vampire. It was fine on the Flintstones because Fred and Wilma are cartoons. And certainly no one would ever find cartoons sexual, right? Right? And when it was two humans on a live-action show, it was only fine because they were married in real life, like Ozzy and Harriet. Then you fast forward to 2011, and Game of Thrones had a dude banging his sister while a kid looked on, so the guy shoved the kid out a window and crippled him. You know, when I say that out loud, maybe we did go too far. But anyway, we now have a very vocal part of social media complaining about any sort of smut in mainstream TV, who clearly wish we'd go back to the way things were in the 60s. And it's not the people you'd think. We're not talking about a bunch of elderly Bible thumpers. We're talking about Gen Z. The early hype train is started for an upcoming rom-com called Anyone But You, starring current it girl Sydney Sweeney. Viewers of my channel know her as the girl who cried about not being able to afford her $3 million home if she stopped working for 6 months, and the girl everyone yelled at for wearing clothes that fit her and making everyone else feel ugly. So this went viral, a TikTok about Sydney and her co-star Glenn Powell, of Top Gun Maverick fame, debuting footage of Anyone But You at something called CinemaCon, and that it would be rated R. Now, when I was a kid, you couldn't wait until you got to see your first R-rated movie. It was a rite of passage. Teens would buy tickets for a PG movie, then sneak into the R-rated movies. That's classic Americana. Oh, being 14, 15 years old and possibly seeing a bare boob or someone say fuck a lot? Maybe some really gruesome violence? Well, that ain't Gen Z's idea of a good time, no siree. Rom-coms shouldn't be rated R, 3 crying laughing emojis. That got 3,800 likes. Rom-com and rated R doesn't belong together to 1 crying laughing emoji. That only got 2,000 likes. Gotta add more emojis, or less? No rom-com needs to be rated R. 13,000 likes. It should be noted that 2 of the most famous rom-coms of all time, When Harry Met Sally and Pretty Woman, are both rated R. Pretty Woman is about a dude falling in love with a hooker. They should remake that one for modern audiences, where a conservative dude who hates sex workers falls in love with an OnlyFans girl and takes her last name in marriage, starring iDubbbz and his wife. When Harry Met Sally has the classic, I'll have what she's having fake orgasm in the restaurant scene. Some movies are basically just corn emoji now. Some Cockney rhyming slang with emojis here. Corn means porn. This take seems funny to me because all I ever hear about now is the only movies in theaters are stupid superhero movies. And the closest thing to sexuality they got is when Zendaya leans down to give little Tommy Holland a little kissy on the bridge. But there are a lot of these comments and way too many likes supporting this idea that, ew, a rom-com might be rated R? Gross! Why don't they make films I can comfortably watch with my parents anymore? I think they just put out a Paw Patrol movie for you a couple of years ago. Unless, I don't know, maybe the dog played by Kim Kardashian says she likes it rough or something. Now, of course, we don't know why the movie is rated R yet. For all we know, it's just gonna be a lot of swearing and crude jokes. But given the fact that Sydney Sweeney barely wears clothes half the time in Euphoria, and has said in interviews that she's fine with sex scenes, even finds they helped boost her body confidence, there's probably going to be some boning. But on Twitter, a month can't go by without people expressing their disgust of sex scenes in movies. And some of the takes get wild. Let's start with the ones that are, well, as close to normal as it gets for Twitter. Sex scenes are completely unnecessary in most movies and does nothing to further the plot. Y'all are just porn rotted. Yes, because famously, watching too much porn leads to people wanting to see famous actors simulate sex with their clothes mostly on and not make them look for far more depraved shit because porn got too boring. So what if people don't want to see sex scenes in rom-coms? Like, they don't add anything to the movie anyway, and some people just feel uncomfortable or bored with it. Let them be. Out of curiosity, what do you think romance leads to? Like, maybe this is the problem. Psychology Today reports that Gen Z, adults under age 25, aren't having as much sex as generations past, and many of them aren't doing it at all. In 2000, 1 in 5 men reported no sex in the past year. In 2018, nearly 1 in 3 reported the same. People just ain't porkin'. And so, is that why these people think that sex scenes in rom-coms aren't important? Perhaps it's more important than ever to show young people that sex in relationships is normal. But then you just have the straight-up prudes. Unpopular opinion, I hate nudity in TV shows. Nothing more awkward than feeling like you walked into a room of people having sex. It never propels the story forward, and it's uncomfortable whether you're with your parents, boyfriend, or friends. A bunch of paid blue check marks show up to show their support. Hilariously, one person says, "Don't get me started on how much of Bridgerton I skipped only to learn that I missed an important plot line by doing so," accidentally admitting that sex scenes do propel the story forward. One woman says, more unpopular opinion, I don't like to see people kissing on the lips in TV shows or movies unless I know the actors are dating or married. I get a gag reflex. It makes them physically sick to see actors play make-believe. Well, I guess we know who would prefer we go back to the good old days of Ozzie and Harriet. But this, surprisingly, isn't the most insane take. This is. I've always felt it weird that as an audience, we're exposed to intimate moments the characters haven't consented to sharing, making the viewer an accidental voyeur at best, leaving us guilty of some form of sexual crime, I'm not sure which exactly, at worst. Guys, the fictional characters never said we could watch them head to Pound Town, and you're a sex criminal for watching them. What is wrong with people? This isn't even an original thought. I found this tweet from 2022. It's interesting to think about consent and voyeurism in this context too. We as the viewer rarely have the consent of a character to watch them have sex. What are you talking about? What are you fucking talking about? Should Sydney's character on Euphoria look into the camera and say, "Hey you, watching at home, this is okay. You're allowed to watch this. I, Cassie from Euphoria, give you permission." Would that make you feel okay? Or are you gonna dial 911?
Hello? Yes, I've just committed a horrible crime. Please have someone come arrest me. I watched a sex scene and the characters on TV never told me I could.
If they send anyone, it won't be the boys in blue. It'll be the boys in white with a straitjacket. I really hate sex scenes in movies and TV shows, like real bad. I wish they would use like 2 secs to imply they had sex and then cut to the next scene. 54,000 likes for this idea. Hell, why show anything? Just have 2 seconds of violence to imply the action scenes. 3 or 4 seconds of talking to imply the dialogue. Why are movies 2 hours long? Why are TV seasons 10 one-hour-long episodes when you can just imply they happened? Just make them all about 20 seconds. You know, now that I'm saying this out loud, I'm really understanding why Gen Z loves TikTok so much. But is this what the 2020s will be known as? When Gen Z went fucking Amish? The Amish are the group you can still make fun of on the internet, by the way, because they'll never know you did it, and even if they did find out, they can't punch you for it. But if a little nipple on TV is too much for you, maybe it's time to strap on those bonnets, kids, and head out to Pennsylvania Dutch country. Although, wait until you find out how much fucking they're doing. pumping out little Ezekiels and Hezekiahs. Those Amish boys are churning so much butter in their women, you'll think you wound up on the set of a Sydney Sweeney rom-com.